Now, let me introduce my guest this morning. My guest, Clara Berry Cassati. She is a lawyer and teaches at the Gimpa Law School. Also here in the studio, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete is Executive Director, Institute of Democratic Governance, IDEG. Josephine Nkrumah is Chairperson, the National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE, and Captain Budu Kumsin is Chief Executive Officer of Nexus Consulting. We will be speaking to Kisi Ejabing on the phone. He's Managing Partner, Cromwell Gray, LLP, and a lecturer at the University of Ghana School of Law. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to have you on the platform this morning. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Right. Okay, so you know what happened in Ayawaso on Thursday. It's supposed to be a small by-election. In fact, it's recorded, and I have checked with some of the experts, the lowest ever turnout since 1996. So let's watch this and listen to this. Very briefly, not much. Listen to Ofosu-Ampofo of the NDC, who is the chairman, announcing a withdrawal of the NDC from the process, a withdrawal that has no legal implication. Then you listen to Yabwa Benga Samwa of the NPP, the communications director, also speak to that issue. And I'll come back to the studio, and later I'll let you hear and also see other key stakeholders in this matter and what they had to say about the developments.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, you are all here and you have witnessed the bizarre situation we find ourselves in. Our candidate is almost held hostage, and ever since the voting started, the candidate has not been able to move out of his residence. His residence was attacked. Our agents and some of our boys have been shot at. I have just returned from the Legon hospital where 6 of our boys, who are party agents and some of them accredited observers, were shot at. Some of them have broken bones. Some of them are seriously injured. And as I speak to you now, they are preparing to move 2 of the injured persons to the 37 military hospital. Some of the people, including our sitting member of parliament, Honorable Sam George, has been attacked. There is serious intimidation. And as a party, we believe in rule of law. We have been in by-elections before, and we don't think that we are in a war zone. But this by-election has been turned into a war zone. We are peaceful, loving people, and we are law-abiding party. We cannot subject any of our members to danger because of elections. In the circumstances, I have conferred with the parliamentary candidate and the leadership of the NDC. We have no option than to withdraw from the ongoing exercise.
Scores of men believed to be NDC supporters are seen following the uniformed men. That was after they prevented them from getting access to the house of the NDC parliamentary candidate. The first gunshots are heard. Some of the supporters retreat as they try to take cover, but the gunfire continued unabated.
Charlie, right now they point the gun, come here.
Even as some of them fled the scene, Others will still remain to face the men unarmed. But soon, that false sense of invincibility vanishes into thin air, as a few courageous ones will also now begin to hide behind shops, trees and vehicles. Now it begins to feel like a war zone, as a voice is heard yelling in the background for the men to shoot. When the shooting finally recedes, a man in a white shirt and jeans is seen at the back of a car bleeding from his knee. He alerts the people around him about his injury. Another man is seen with a deep wound in his biceps as he's also put in the vehicle.
That's the broken. I'm done. Who's driving the car? They should take him away.
No. Take him to our car.
No, they should take him away. He's bleeding out too. He's bleeding out.
I'm dying, man.
Boss.
I'm dying, man. I'm dying, man.
We are just some meters away from the house of the NDC parliamentary candidate, Delali Kwesi Brempong. Well, we've been here for hours trying to understand exactly what happened yesterday. One of the many things that caught our attention is the bullet holes on the trees, on the vehicles, and then on shops here because of what happened yesterday. Well, this vehicle right here, this Kia Morning vehicle, was also hit by a bullet, and you can still see the bullet hole here.
We saw some armed men in black Lacoste wearing the NSC, that's the National Security Council. The black Lacoste was tagged NSC, fully armed, marks up, coming towards the NDC's man's house. Some entered the house, demanding the people there to come out. So out of that, the NDC guys, some guys saw the people, and they're like, these people are not security persons, so what are you doing here? They were able to identify 5 guys. So out of that, they were sacking them to go. Then the guys saw that, no, the people have been able to identify them, so they gave 2 warning shots. And then the NDC guys, since they were not armed, they had to throw stones, just as a means of sacking the guys out. Well, it became worse, and then they started firing in the crowd, not in the air. They fired the crowd. Right in front of me, I saw about 3 people that suffered gunshots.
Now, this is a by-election. It's one constituency, so there ought not to be any difficulty about maintaining law and order. The difficulty I find is that I believe it's premeditated. It is orchestrated, and therefore incidents are being blown out of proportion. We are informed, as I just stated, that there was an engagement with some thugs who were camped right behind the candidates, the NDC candidate's house. And instead of engaging the police in a civil manner, they chose to exchange gunshots with the police.
Right, so you heard Ofosu-Ampofo earlier, and then you heard Yabwabwe Asamoah ending that report. But that was a report put together by the JoyNews team and telling you exactly what happened and bringing to you in clear sound and pictures what happened at Bawaleshie during the elections, the gunshots and the mayhem that occurred at that place. So in the wake of the process, statements have been issued, and I have seen statements, I've seen statements pour in a manner that I have not seen even for main elections, general elections. You didn't have this number of statements, including from such important institutions and bodies, world bodies, on even the 2016 elections, not the election before, which had to be fought in court. So let me welcome my guests into the studio and then begin with Dr. Kwete on a portion of the statement issued by the UNDP, United Nations Development Programme, which issued a statement and condemned what happened. Now, in the last two paragraphs of its statement, it said that we strongly condemn such impunity and brazen act of violence which undermines Ghana's hard-earned democracy and peace. Ghana is a pillar of stability in the sub-region. As a pillar of stability in the sub-region, must not become complacent. We call on all to avoid violence and the use of inflammatory language that could further increase tensions. Sorry, I didn't read your own statement. I'll read portions of your statement as well by IDEC. But how do you begin to analyze what has happened on the basis of, from this portion of the statement by the UNDP?
Well, thank you very much. I think it tells us that what happened at Bawaleshie needs to be taken seriously because it is raising serious questions about the strength of our democracy, whether we can match. Democracy voting is the antithesis of shooting. So when people will prefer to resolve conflict or choose leaders through war, you say, look, we give you all rights, everybody qualified of this age. This is the procedure, it will be peaceful, we will assure everybody has the right atmosphere to express their will freely. And so one of the things we do in elections is to make sure that intimidation or situations that will be intimidating to people are reduced to the minimum. It is very difficult when you've seen the film to ask yourself, what is all this about? And the context for that question is this. You see, the constituency Ayawaso West Wogan is an NPP stronghold. We've had Frema, Fariose, we've had...
They won it 6 times, the NDC twice.
Yes, but it's clearly, if you look at the last 2016 and even the gap, and this is a by-election, usually, unless the by-election is going to change the situation in the balance of power in Parliament, you know, where you would understand that the stakes are so high, so it intensifies the fight to win the seat. In this case, it didn't appear so. And moreover, you would have seen a situation where sympathy vote was likely, because this was a popular MP who passed on, and usually the trend is that people tend to, the sympathy votes, their members who come out. Generally, by-elections don't attract the kind of turnout you see in presidential and parliamentary elections, because Ghanaians are power-minded voters. Look, they don't want to waste their vote. If one of the reasons why small parties or minority parties don't do so well when it comes to voting is that people would ask themselves, would I waste my vote if I cast it for? What are their chances of coming to power and coming to therefore effect the changes or the solutions that they propose? And they feel that, look, it's not good. So they want to vote for a party that they think would come and address some of their problems. It might be something that never happens, or they get disappointed now and then. But if you look at it, so the turnout predictably will be low for by-elections on those days and so on. Others would take it for granted that, oh, it's a stronghold, whatever it is. We didn't see any really intensified, high investment kind of campaigning by the NDC, not even by the NPP, although the news report said, look, street lights were being fixed and roads were being, so the usual things came into that. Therefore, if you look at it that even if NDC won, it wasn't going to change the power dynamics in Parliament, except that people had said this could be read as a referendum or a vote of confidence in the president, the government of President Akufo-Addo.
And the turnout could be indicative of that expression. Either the turnout is very low, and so they say, well, there's apathy because you are not doing well, or that they participated fully and managed to increase their percentage from the 2016 elections, which would also communicate the same, you know.
Yes, yes. So the point I'm making is that we couldn't use the turnout. The fact that NDC withdrew or asked their agents to withdraw or whatever incident happened, you know, the shooting of this kind, seeing it on telly, on social media and so on, would scare you wherever you are. You want to keep far, far away from we're afraid of, you know, these things generally, blood, spilling blood and so on. So that in that sense created a situation, unfortunate situation. And I think it couldn't tell whether this was Liberia, Sierra Leone, DRC, you know, because this is a country where we thought, oh, our elections are civilized and we're orderly and so on. Yes, we would argue over.
So you're surprised about this?
I'm surprised, and I'm still trying to understand what led to this. All that I've picked up from, you know, the news is that I've heard the police say they are investigating. Now, what does national security mean? I mean, what is it? We have specific agencies. We see different clothes, black and khaki-like and police and so on. What are all this? But what I know is that when it's elections, the security command is the police. The police task force is led by the National Security Task Force is led by the IGP. You know, when you see the chief of staff of the army on the task force, he's invited by the police. In fact, the police would also tell you that it's the Electoral Commission that has command over everything elections. They are invited, they consult, they ask them what they need, and so on and so forth. So the role of national security other than the police, or which is not under the command of the police, raises questions. Where are they from? How do we identify them? Now, this whole thing about national security, even the FBI has badges, you know. In critical circumstances, they will show you their badge. Are they badged? Can we say when push comes to shove and you say, please identify yourself? Because sometimes people would comply once you've shown your identity, that this is why you are here. But to just say I'm national security. So it's raised a lot of concerns about our security, whether we have parallel security structures, whether this came under the command of the police, or whether it's the police in different clothing, and so on, or there are other forces. And that is why those who are demanding that this thing needs to be investigated speedily, thoroughly. I associate with the statement of Occupy Ghana that you know, you need to look at that, and I think the chairman of the Peace Council. But I don't believe in commissions because they take.
Is asking for a commission of inquiry.
Yes, and the Peace Council chair also did that.
It's not that serious. You think there should be a commission of inquiry?
I think that a huge commission to. First of all, there's a potential criminality involved. People have been shot. They've been wounded for what? In a public space, around, and so on. The police have to do their work thoroughly. I think the police must be strengthened to do their work, this investigation thoroughly, speedily. If they need help, others should be brought in. But I think the damage it has done, because it's gone, look, for the UNDP to issue a statement would tell you that it's global, such that UN headquarters will be involved. They wouldn't issue this statement on their own. It comes. And then in West Africa, generally AU level and so on. But it's difficult to understand the essence of why this.
Okay.
And that is what.
So maybe he can explain a bit for us because of his, you know, expertise in the area of security matters. He speaks about the presence of the national security and not under the command of the police. We have heard the police initially say, we don't even know these people. We don't know where they're coming from. And you see them jump out of vehicles with the inscription Ghana Police. So, do you understand what is going on?
Well, thank you. We were all baffled by a by-election. I live in that area.
Okay.
In fact, the Residents Association, I'm the chairman.
Okay.
In Stable. And we've been battling with these, our land guards issues and things. But coming to this, it was a surprise. Actually, it caught a lot of people by surprise that Bawaleshie, just behind our doors, turned into a war zone. And what led to what, you understand? So I've been mining my security connections to find out what really happened and all these things. What I have been able to gather so far is that the command, like we said, was unified under the police. And those national security guys we saw, why they identified themselves so boldly is also another thing. But you see, prior to this thing, intelligence had become, this party is accusing this party has been accusing this party. And we had seen this, the security agencies have on tape, whether it was an exercise or a training camp or a passing out, where a political leader was addressing the hawks. Right, it's on social media, you know, that they are commissioning them to come and defend the party as, you know. I mean, intelligence picks up these things and they actually observe it closely. There was also information that people were actually being brought in, so-called the Azokas and the Hawks, were going to test their metal against whatever they are going to test it against. All these things raised the stakes, which was also not necessary. But that it should deteriorate into this, I don't think anybody imagined.
Do you believe these intelligence reports, as we are being told? Do you find that they are ex post facto rationalization, just finding reason when things have gone wrong?
Oh, these reports were before the incident. These reports were before the incident. Now, on the issue of command and control, apparently there was actionable intelligence from them. That is, from my sources, that's what I'm gathering. That's why we should also have this, either a quick investigation, a committee of inquiry to come out with the facts of the case. That there was actionable intelligence that there were weapons, munitions, and people who had actually gathered in the
the candidates
place. Meanwhile, so that the CTU, which those guys in the brown, it's unfortunate that their cover is so blown. The CTU is actually part of the SWAT team, and that is the counter-terrorist unit. Look, we should put it in a West African context and everything that is going around about terrorism and all this. But they had actionable intelligence that there were weapons, munitions, and personnel in that house. Earlier, it is also alleged that I think it was Sam George who had earlier been there with a convoy of 15 motorbikes, ostensibly to protect the station, and had been advised or convinced to send his boys away. So you see that tension had started building. So when these guys got to the house, definitely they were denied entry. And one thing led to the other, and this exchange of fire. In fact, the first 9 people that came out of the property, that's where the scuffle began, and they actually arrested them. Those were the 9 that were sent to the police station. And definitely we all saw the wounds and things, because they actually confronted the CTU guys. And definitely...
The graphic reported that 18 people had been injured.
Oh yeah, it could be, because after these guys had been arrested, I mean, these, you should see them. I've seen some photos of some of the arrested persons. One of them is double your size. And as these are well-built people, so if they are going to be arrested, it will be a scuffle. But the 9 were arrested, but more people actually got injured in the melee. Who shot first and who responded when, that is something that forensics should be able to come out with. Unfortunately, looking at the footage and the pictures coming out, so much evidence has been tampered with already. So much evidence has been tampered with them. But I'm hoping that as of yesterday or early, close to when the thing happened, the police will send its forensic investigations teams to go there because there's a lot of evidence that can be gathered. Gunpowder residue, the type of caliber of casings, the bullets and all these things can tell you where what is coming from.
The injured are in the hospital, some of them receiving treatment.
Precisely.
So clearly the evidence may not be that tampered with.
And there's a lot of footage.
Yes.
There's a lot of footage.
Yes. Yes. And
actually, so far, I haven't seen a footage of the incidents in the house itself.
Okay.
You know, because I don't think people were ready to video those things. If there's a CCTV facility in the residence or whatever.
Do you believe the story
about
that you have security men of this class armed to the teeth, and they have actionable intelligence that in that candidate's house there is ammunition, there are weapons, and they go there, they are stopped, and they are unable to protect this country? Do you believe that story?
Well, they have a commander. That's why I say that. That is their side of the story. That's their side of the story. And we also have the other side of the story.
Yeah, my question is whether you believe that these people, fully armed, could be stopped and they will not tell us about the ammunition or the weapons.
Well, so far, if I hadn't come out with these things, maybe the information wouldn't still be out there. But we are hoping
it's out there.
No, it's out there already.
It's already out there.
Ministers are speaking to it.
Precisely. If it's out there already, then that is the information they had. I wanted to know why the presence of the CTU or even the SWAT at that time, because at election times, you want to do everything to lower the temperature, not increase the temperature. But as it is, it must have coincided with whatever happened there. They were on that assignment. I think that will explain why maybe the police commander at that time, I also saw the footage that, I mean, he was also being diplomatic, or I hope so, that he didn't know who these guys are or whatever, because if the CTU was on assignment, I don't think they would seek permission.
So let me put it this way.
You know,
let me put it this way. Yeah. If indeed the actionable intelligence was good intelligence, you believe the story that they would not have gone in there regardless of whoever tried to stop them, and that they would not have given us a report about what they found or did not find?
It depends, because you see, you look at the level of resistance and the possible collateral damage. Even for those who were taken from outside the property, you see the injuries that were sustained. From what I'm hearing, the gate was locked. And according to them, they reported either Azoka boys or what in the property who were there ostensibly to protect the candidate. Now, if maybe they have proceeded to fire to break the gate and entered, maybe it would have sustained more injuries. That is
what is their use if such danger exists and they can't unravel it, but rather shoot at people and maim people who are outside and of no significance to the process?
It is, you see, the situation was so fluid. We are all scratching our heads to get a good understanding of this.
Okay.
Issue is that I will not be also privy to everything.
No, but my question to you is, do you believe that story?
That there was...
It has no conclusion.
There were weapons in the house.
Right.
There were persons in the house.
And those people were sent there to retrieve those weapons or ammunition. Do you believe that story?
I will believe it.
Okay.
Because if
and you believe that that is good intelligence, and yet people paid by the state, armed to the teeth, and their faces covered, can't have access and retrieve those ammunition?
This is what I'm saying. You remember, if you remember, when this thing started, the commander on the ground, the police guy who had the absolute command in the area, whatever it is, would intervene. And if these people are trained men, they will listened to the command.
Okay.
And I understand it was the police that intervened that brought a stop to this mayhem. And definitely they would have reported to higher command and would have received further instructions.
You see, there's some disconnect. If police has command over an area of operation, and it's elections, and there is this important actionable intelligence, you call it, the police ought to know. They are part of the security apparatus.
Well,
and they are security people. Okay, and it's under their command. The police, they always have a way of confronting such situations. What stopped them, for example, the police knowing, and therefore, if people see police in numbers coming, they have a behavior, so they will pull back, and so on. Usually the police will not
ordinary people.
Ordinary people, yes, I'm coming, please. So what I ask myself is that people have raised questions about the coordination.
Yeah.
Was the actionable intelligence of a kind that the police on the ground or the police overseeing the election in a small place couldn't be the ones that they work through? Because they're all security and they're used to working on these things. You know, couldn't they also, for instance, cordon off the place, whatever the time and so on? But the police must know. You have pointed out that the police is the command that even brought things to order. So what was it that brought about this connection? I don't know the veracity of the action, of the actionable intelligence, but I think we should leave things to the security agencies to handle professionally and competently.
But we can't leave things to them. We can't leave things to them without having them answer these questions. Hold on.
Yes.
Now, Clara, by the law you have studied and you teach, these security operatives, they are empowered by law even to kill to protect the state. Can you believe the claim? Are you giving to believe the claim that there were weapons or ammunition in this house, and yet they went and they couldn't do that job? The first person to have told that this story was Esla Owusu, correct? The minister. And then subsequently,
the chairman of MPP had also
and then subsequently all other officers of the MPP are communicating this story. Are you giving to believe it?
Samson, I actually think that introducing that into the discussion is part of the problem that we generally have as a country.
Okay.
Which is that we then divert attention from what the problem we have to solve, and then it becomes a banter. So this person throws something in there, another person throws something in there. Then, as usually would happen, the rest of us become spectators because we don't have the facts. And we do not have what it takes to find out what the real facts are. So we just have to watch whilst one more time this becomes about NPP and NDC. And generally, I always complain that sometimes they seem to forget we live here too. And that we too have a stake in the affairs of the country. For me, what is important for me is what is standard procedure. I actually wouldn't accept, we thought there were allegations, because we have no way of ascertaining whether the allegations are true or they are untrue. But we ought to know what standard procedure is. And standard procedure cannot be left to opinions.
No, but Clara, we have a way to show the allegations or the intelligence, not allegation, is true or not. Okay. If they pursue it to conclusion, they would have found weapons or found nothing.
Who was the security that was there? Was it the police? Was it the army? Which aspect of the
national security guys?
Was it the guys' mask that I saw? Because when I was I have a difficulty understanding why I should see them as part of the state apparatus. Because what I expect is that if the state gives you a gun and the state gives you power to shoot, the state must make it possible for me to identify and hold you accountable, which means that I should be able to demand, if you come to my premises, I should be able to, even if I can't see your name badge, I should be able to demand a card, something that I can identify you with. So if you can come and then you are masked and you expect me to accept that you are coming from the state, I have no way. If you do anything wrong, I have no way of identifying you.
In Ghana, national security doesn't show cards. VNI people, they walk into your place, they have to pick you, they pick you up. You ask them, they simply tell you, I'm from BNI, end of story.
So it means that any kidnapper can come onto your premises and say, I am from BNI or I am from national security and pick you up. It's not right. So that is why, and that's why I talk about standards and law. It ought to be clear which of our state apparatus has what job. And I think jobs that include picking people up and entering people, because people have, the Constitution guarantees them their privacy on their property. They have a right to exclude any other person from their property. So if the state is going onto their property, they have a right to be sure that this person is coming from the state and nobody else. So our willingness to accept what is wrong.
The same provision that grants you the privacy of your property and communication whatsoever, in the clause 2, says that it is not protected. It is that privacy is not protected if there is crime or things of the nature going on there.
But that is why I have to be sure that you are a law enforcement officer before you come onto my premises. That's why I said that if you show me your badge, I have a duty to allow you. But I don't have a duty to allow a person I can't identify, who shows up and tells me by word of mouth that, well, I am coming from.
Okay, you first tell us what you make of what you have witnessed, at least by way of the TV reports and conversations you have
as
heard
has
about.
Been said, I'm still confused. I'm still confused because I'm like, this is Ghana. You get it? I mean, it's us. We've done this for so long. I mean, we are the bright shining star of Africa. We lead the way. We preach rule of law, and I want to believe we are committed to rule of law. So what's happening? I met the masked guys when I was leaving Gempa campus. So I met them on the road. It was intimidating, and all because of a by-election. For me, it like Dr. Kwete said, it was like, is this some war-torn country, or this is the Ghana that we all know?
If national security has reason to protect a by-election, they ought to be doing their job. So why should they be worried?
No, but that's the issue. I actually don't have any reason to believe it is national security. Because like I said, if you are a state security agency, I think you owe the people a duty to be identifiable, at least by something.
But they were in police vehicle.
But the police came out to say that they don't know them.
No. This particular incident, I mean,
yes.
because
it's
there's confusion. It's confusing.
Because let's also be fair. I mean, we know of course, the police initially come to say they don't know them. Then they later on come to say, well, they are our men. There is confusion. I mean, it's difficult to say people should just accept it, because then you start to wonder whether this is a true mistake, or maybe there's some arm twisting somewhere that somebody has to take responsibility to avoid a situation because it's embarrassing for all of us. And my point is, we actually don't need this. I think the state has a duty to protect us. So if we are seeing the state acting, we shouldn't feel intimidated. It should be reassuring. Anytime I close from work in the night and I'm going home and I see police officers on the road, I feel secured. I think that is what state security is about. So I think for me, what I am interested in is, when we have by-elections with respect to security, whose job is what? So that we see that there is proper coordination and that there is no shooting around. And as it's coming out, then it becomes a matter of banter. And as usual, none of the major political parties wants to be left out.
Okay, so hold on briefly for me. Let's hear Brian Echampong. You listen to him first. Brian Echampong.
Well, it's quite unfortunate. I spoke with the Honorable Member of Parliament. We spoke about the incident. We spoke about the provocation. We spoke about the response that followed. I assured him that we are going to investigate the matter, and the report will be shared with him, and mentioned to him that in the course of the investigation he will be interviewed. I mean, we spoke. He was home. Nothing had happened to him, and the act shouldn't have happened. Either being in a provocation or whatever it is, there shouldn't have been any exchange at all. It wasn't expected at a polling station. I condemn the entire incident, and I can assure you and your listeners that matter will review the tapes, will interview all persons involved, and then if there's any action that has to be taken against anybody, that action will be taken.
Okay, so that is the Deputy Minister, National Security. The things that happened, including the fact that a member of parliament, sitting member of parliament, is assaulted in the manner we saw in the videos. He says they will investigate. Why should anybody trust his people, him, to investigate his own for what appears on the face, unlawful things that have been done?
I think first and foremost, if at all there was actionable intelligence, I think by this point it's fair to say it was a really botched job. Totally botched job. And so...
You say what? Absolutely?
Yes.
Absolutely botched?
Yes. And that if...
Can you imagine what would happen if they were not there?
If you, sorry, it's her turn. Let her finish.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yesterday and today we're all still struggling to understand the issues, and you had a theater of accusations and counter accusations, allegations, and we're all still wondering where is the truth in all of this that happened. Like Clara said, we have a state apparatus that should protect the citizenry. And I believe the citizenry includes each and every single Ghanaian who was, involved in some way or was at the premises or within the environs of what occurred. There's enough evidence to suggest that people who were meant to protect us became an intimidating actor. They became people who began to assault others, including an MP. And nothing at all warrants that kind of approach. It has put fear in the people of Ghana, and we are beginning to understand the essence of our consistent statement that we have to take a position to stamp out the political thugs that our democracy is being associated with now. For the UNDP to come out with a statement, it is a loaded and very significant turn of events that nobody should underestimate.
Okay, so they say they got intelligence.
Yes.
And what we know is that when they have intelligence, they would always be proactive. That's what they do. So how do you process this claim? To justify the presence of this load of hooded, fully armed men, well built.
Well, by this time, because of the confusion that has arisen, I would have expected that the Deputy Minister of National Security, who...
Yes, he's actually Minister of State.
Minister of State in charge of...
Yes. Yeah, right.
I would have expected that by now that would be out in the public domain.
Okay.
To put matters, in a certain perspective for us to appreciate. But if at that point in time we have a Deputy Minister who says what happened is unacceptable, we're going to take steps to investigate, and not come out and say our apparatus took the actions they took or were present at that location because there was information to this effect. And even following the incident that occurred, I also would have expected that by now there would be some sort of order to go and search the candidate's home to ascertain that indeed that actionable intelligence indeed was the fact. We don't have any of this. And so you continue to have speculations and allegations in the air. Needless to say, yesterday's event, we are all repulsed by it. But if we are to go by this simple by-election, then it is a foretaste of what is to come if we all don't take steps to address this issue. Actionable intelligence,
again,
should there be people...
Can we not do this so that we are not seen to suggest that the entire, is it 130 polling stations?
137.
37 polling stations was engulfed in this kind of situation. We know that what happened did not happen in a polling station. It happened in the residence of one of the candidates, the NDC's candidate. Albeit it was closer to a polling station.
Very close.
Yes, close to a polling station. Is it not possible to isolate that situation from the election process yesterday?
I find it a bit difficult. Firstly, you have the candidate himself who, or it is alleged that he was hemmed in. Then you have another story that says they locked themselves in. I don't know which is which, but at that point in time, somebody's movement was restricted to their residence. He is a central feature to the by-election. And of course, maybe there are constituents in his residence as well. So in as much as it did not happen in a polling station, it was close enough and nonetheless within the constituency. And if it was within the constituency, matters that occurred in his residence, in and around his residence, may have a spillover on the polling station.
Okay.
And so it's difficult for me to say that insofar as it wasn't at a polling station, you should isolate it, because the events that are occurring in that residence have a direct bearing on the electoral process.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you say, Captain Budukus-Compson, what do you say about security experts who will suggest that it will appear that this was clearly orchestrated by the party in government, which had a stake in the election, to create a condition that denies the potential alternative opposition in that constituency, you know, any fair ground. And here's the story, that otherwise, when you pick up intelligence, you operate in a most smooth way and proactively. You don't wait for the elections to commence and then you drive in these men in their numbers in these vehicles for everybody to watch and to create a scene even as they approach the place.
Why, I find it a bit far-fetched or difficult to imagine that the government in power will orchestrate the scene, because it stands to lose, whichever way it is, when the violence erupts. And that one vote, or that one parliamentary seat wasn't going to change much. And honestly, everybody, I live in the area, we knew that it was going to be one sympathy vote was going to kick in. Two, the NDC itself was not too strong on the campaign. And three, everything showed that the lady was going to win, whether it was a reduced margin or an expanded margin. So why would the government instigate something like this that could spill out of control? On the other hand, I would also think that could it also be that the opposition also orchestrated it to blame something and they were going to lose anyway? Actually, that is the claim, not a claim. He believes that's the fact by the MP for Denton, someone who speaks for the NPP. He says this was orchestrated by the NDC to create the situation where the government will get a bad name, the EC will get a bad name because they hate the EC boss, and also to create the apathy so that people don't come out to vote. Do you believe that story? Well, I have more of a challenge believing that the government orchestrated it. Yes, but it is easy to believe that the opposition could orchestrate it. On the other hand, I would think, if I put everything on the scale, I would think that the spillover, the results of what has happened, makes the NDC look better than the government. Really? Yeah, in the sense
Explain that, yes.
In the sense that the government is in power. Anything that went wrong is the government in power that is blamed. I mean, they were in control of the security agencies. The UNDP makes a comment that is negative about what happened. It reflects on the country, everything. So if it comes to who orchestrated what, I would find it difficult to believe that the party in power would orchestrate this thing. To what effect? What was the advantage in it to orchestrate this thing? I have a challenge there. I have a challenge there. And then,
but you find everything normal about the claim of intelligence and when they move in and all of that?
It is a hard call. In fact, if I were the commander issuing that instructions, it would have been a difficult one, because looking at the timing of the operation, the location of the operation, it was definitely going to affect that polling station. It was.
So all those conditions you look at, don't they make it also more reasonably credible that the government in power orchestrated it?
That's what I'm saying. To what advantage? To what advantage? The actionable intelligence. Well, we are all yet to get more information on this thing. I'm not going to say, I'm not holding a brief, and I'm not saying that I have all the information. The actionable intelligence, was this such a fluid situation? When was the intelligence gathered? Was it gathered 2 days, 3 days prior, or was it that day? If it was that day, then it's a difficult call. If it was 2-3 days before, I would have done a night operation there, cordon off the place and searched it.
Okay.
Otherwise, if they had pressed on, you ask a question. If you ask a question, why wouldn't they go in there? There's something called minimum force. And sometimes you also want to limit the collateral damage. Once there was a resistance and there was a stalemate, maybe that's why they didn't break, according to them, they didn't break the gates to get in there. With a lot of people confined in that area, the casualty levels would have been greater. But even if they were called off, what has been the follow-up actions since then? If there was that action,
the president issued a statement congratulating Lydia Al-Hassan for winning, and he said the police are on it and they are investigating and they will get to the bottom of it.
Precisely. You see, there must have been immediate
that would be rather created, wouldn't it?
Well,
when are the police going to get into there, knowing that if there were actually weapons that the people are aware that they are coming for it?
Dr. Ahmed said it was a botched. It looks like it was a botched operation.
First of all, I think that dealing with actionable intelligence happens everywhere. Recently, Kenya, the market hotel that the terrorists went in and so on. And you see how procedures work if you monitor these things, and you find out that, first of all, the communication about actionable intelligence should not come from a politician. No. You see, the minister who spoke will be the person to speak. If it's not, because the structure of government has people who take care of security. And as they're speaking, they are coordinating. They know what is moving. We heard it from two politicians, chairman of MPP first, and then we heard it from my dear friend, Honorable Minister, Esla, Yes. And I felt uncomfortable about it, because I would have preferred to hear the Minister of State first, speaking and so on, because once he's doing that, he's in charge with all the security apparatus, including the minister responsible for national security, and they are coordinating, because these are security matters that you cannot just throw into the public.
So we'll take a break here. Finish on your second point.
Two, when you are going to handle bot operations like this, and they knew very well there was a polling station, it's an area, and you're dealing with a member of parliament. So there are a number of factors that bring certain things under your control. Okay. So the first thing I thought would be, and operations I've seen, is that the safety of civilians around will be priority.
Okay.
And you see them cordoning off, getting people out. They
don't look trained to have done that job.
They could have told even the EC suspend polling at that voting at that polling station for a while. Move it to the afternoon. We want to do something and so on and so on. So there are a number of factors you put together. And you say, but what went wrong? And I don't want to. It's not a matter of what I believe or what we should believe. The It is what the facts are, which is why the investigation must be top priority and expeditious.
All right.